In the 2020 Major League Baseball season, 16 teams made the playoffs. This meant that mediocre teams like the Brewers and Astros, who finished under 500, made it to October baseball. This was a bad idea, even with COVID-19 being a driving factor in the decision to expand the playoffs temporarily. The next year in 2021, the playoffs were back to the original format of 10 teams and 2 wildcard games. However, before the 2022 season, Major League Baseball agreed to again expand the playoffs, this time permanently. It wasn't as ridiculous as the 2020 format, but in my opinion, it's still a big mistake. The format allows for 12 teams instead of 10, meaning that there are 4 wildcard rounds, not just 2. It also means that the top 2 teams in each league would get a bye week of sorts instead of their usual 3. But the biggest change can be found in the way the wildcard round works. Formerly a system in which one winner-take-all game in each league took place, it's been changed to follow the 2020 format of making it a best-of-3 series instead. These 2 changes are what is making the new playoffs boring and uninteresting in my opinion. From a money perspective, it's definitely paying dividends, but it comes at the cost of the on-field play, which in the long run is more important than the money. The addition of the 6th seed in the playoffs has provided a very mixed bag so far. The 4 number 6 seeds to make the playoffs since 2022 are the Rays, Phillies, Blue Jays, and Diamondbacks. 2 out of those 4 teams were instantly swept in the wildcard round, with those series being largely a waste of time and money for the fans. The teams that did make it out of the wildcard round, though, were the 2022 Phillies and 2023 Diamondbacks, who came within games of winning the World Series. The fact that the last 2 World Series have had the number 6 seeds from the National League is extremely interesting, given the fact that in the previous playoff format, the number 5 seed hadn't made the World Series since 2014, when the Giants got there and won it. So why is the trend all of a sudden stopping, and seemingly worse teams have made it much farther in 2 years than other teams did in decades? A popular theory is simply the long break that the top-seeded teams now have between the last game of the regular season and when their series start against the wildcard winners. In 2023, the season ended on October 1st, and those Diamondbacks started their series with the number 2 Dodgers on October 7th, meaning the Dodgers hadn't played in a game in 6 days. Is it really a possibility that the explanation is just that simple? That teams just have too much rest and aren't ready to go after it? That would be a fair argument if the pattern was happening in the American League as well. But since it's not, this isn't really a convincing argument. While all that was happening in the National League playoffs, the 2 6 seeds from the American League playoffs so far have gone 0-4 and been outscored 8-2 in some really boring games. The rest argument has been non-existent in the American League as well, with the last 2 championship series featuring 3 teams who had first-round byes, and only 1 team that had to play on the wildcard round. I want to talk about the wildcard round itself now and go over some recent history to understand why I don't think it works. In the 2022 playoffs, the number 6 Rays went to Cleveland to take on the number 3 Guardians in a best-of-3 series. The Rays ultimately went on to score just 1 run in 24 innings and got swept in an incredibly awful series with almost no excitement. On the National League side, the number 6 Phillies went to St. Louis to play the number 3 Cardinals, and after a thrilling Game 1 victory for the Phillies, they stifled the Cardinals' offense en route to a sweep. That Gene Segura clutch single would have been remembered a lot more if it had been in a winner-take-all game. Of course, there are examples that could prove the best of 3 is a good thing. In 2022, in the Mariners and Blue Jays series, we never would have seen that crazy comeback in Game 2 that handed the Mariners the series. But my point is that the best of 3 has rarely worked in the way that I think it was intended to on the field, with more excitement happening than would in just 1 game. But that's what made the old format so special, is that it's only one and done. In my opinion, the changes to the MLB playoffs have done much more harm than good in the last 2 years since they were implemented. For the league itself, it's been a success, as they've brought in much more money from the expanded and longer playoffs. But from a fan's perspective, they haven't been great, and sometimes the games end up being a waste of time. Some of those wildcard games I mentioned even started during the day on weekdays, which poses a conflict to people at work or school trying to watch the games. And that's all for this video, and thanks for watching. Leave a comment with your thoughts and like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you.